What's up, y'all? So in my Discord server, which you can join if you head on over to my main channel, Geekdom 101, click the join button and join at tier 2 and become a member. I sent over these spoilers for MCU Phase 4 that popped up online. Now, I'm not sure how authentic these are. I'm not sure how real they are, but I want to give you a warning that we're going to go into it here and I'm going to give my thoughts about what I think could be happening and what couldn't be happening and in Marvel Phase 4. This is for some of the upcoming movies that have not been released yet. So, again, last chance to get off the video if you don't want to be spoiled, just in case they're real. Okay, so Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is supposed to come out later in 2022, says here Nebula and Mantis will have a big role in this film. There are no obstacles. Quasar will appear as a cameo. If there are no obstacles, I'm sorry. I don't know what obstacles there would be except for maybe the pandemic. I don't really understand what he means by that. High Evolutionary will debut in this film as unvillain. I guess they mean a villain. Interesting. That's possible. I could see that. Team Starjammers will fill the void of the space pirate after Guardians of the Galaxy's departure. So, when they say departure, does that mean that we're not going to see the team anymore? Like, I don't really get what that means. And the Starjammers being in the MCU makes sense. I'm not saying it doesn't, but I feel like if they're going to come in and start doing Starjammer movies instead of Guardians of the Galaxy, that could be a mistake because of how popular the Guardians are. But I could see the Starjammers having like a feud with the Guardians in an upcoming film. That could work. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Kate Bishop is set to appear in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania in preparation for the Young Avengers project. You know, I could see that being a cameo, right? With Ant-Man's daughter, with Scott's daughter, I could see that being the case, but I don't see it being a major point of the story. Kang the Conqueror has a savage and ruthless nature as opposed to He Who Remains. Well, we kind of suspected that because at the end of Loki, He Who Remains kind of warned us that, the other versions of him are much, much worse. So I could see that definitely being the case. They built the set for Kang the Conqueror's Chair of Time in the comics, but with this chair is used to time travel wherever he wants. Okay, that's fair, and I guess he'll be using the quantum realm to do that, kind of like what the Avengers did in Endgame. Stinger, Cassie Lang, and Iron Lad are set to debut in this film. Again, it goes back to that new Avengers, Young Avengers project. Cassie Lang is definitely going to be in it. I mean, I don't see them doing a movie with Scott Lang and not have Cassie in it, but will she be ready? Is this movie going to be done just to set up the Young Avengers? I don't know. And I always thought that Iron Lad was going to be in the Iron Heart TV show first. They will present Janet Van Dyne's Fortress in the Quantum Realm. I wonder what they mean by that. I know that I guess maybe where she was at this whole time. That's interesting. And what's her relationship to King the Conqueror? There's not really much here, but what I'm hoping is that Kang the Conqueror is not a villain of the week. I hope that's not one of those things where Kang just loses and that's it. Because the potential of Kang the Conqueror being the main villain of Phase 4 and really messing up with the time and having the Avengers chase him through time, I think would be a great, great, great story. And them just using him for Loki and for Ant-Man, I think is a waste of a villain in my opinion. There's a ton of villains in Phase 1 and Phase 2 that were like one and dones. And some of them being one and dones kind of bugged me. Like the Red Skull. I mean, he did come back, but he wasn't a villain anymore. I would have loved to have seen the Red Skull stick around. Here, I hope they don't just finish off Kang and that's it. Fantastic Four will be set after the events of Endgame. I mean, that's obvious. Everything now is after the events of Endgame. Fantastic Four cast will be announced soon and will involve two well-known actors and the rest are newcomers. I mean, that sounds like he's guessing, right? Who are they? Then tell us who they are. Silver Surfer will be making his debut in Fantastic Four MCU and will really adapt his presence as close to the comics as possible. I could see him making a cameo. I don't know about him actually being in the movie, like as part of the big storyline. The development of Fantastic Four itself is called the Holy Trilogy because it builds the story of Galactus as the main enemy in the MCU after Thanos for cosmic threats. Galactus' influence will be present in at least 10 films or more. So Galactus being in this makes sense. However, when I saw the Eternals and I saw that the Celestials are going to end up being the villains there, I kind of felt like they're a little too similar to Galactus as far as like their their cosmic level threat. So I felt like we're probably not going to see Galactus for a while. Now that they've already teased the Celestials. I could be wrong, but I have this weird feeling that Galactus will probably not be in the movie. I don't know if this is a correct leak or just made up. Again, this could all be BS, but I just don't see them doing Galactus yet. I do see them doing Galactus later on. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's too soon. Doctor Doom will be present in the sequel to Fantastic Four. See, I don't know how he's talking about the Fantastic Four sequel if the first one isn't even done yet, and Galactus in the third film, Fantastic Four. So I just, right here's where I'm starting to think fan fiction. Like, whenever you see these things, they're talking about, like, movies that haven't even been announced yet. Like, to me, going so far into the future, like Phase 5, I don't see Doctor Doom. I mean, I do see him being in a Fantastic Four movie, right, obviously. But I don't think this is true because it just sounds like fan fiction. It sounds like some kid just made it up. You know what I mean? We know that there have been leaks that have come out that Doctor Doom will actually be making his first appearance in the Black Panther 2 movie, in the sequel to Black Panther, the Wakanda Forever. I'm not really sure what his role will be there, if he'll actually be the villain or just have a cameo. It's a bit of a weird thing because most of the time when they have Fantastic Four, like, origin stories, Doom is there, you know? In this situation, I could see the MCU doing something different. Honestly, I hope they skim through the origin story as quickly as possible. We've seen it way too many times, in my opinion. And it's a little bit too simplistic to have it be the story of the whole movie. Blade versus Morbius. Blade will chase Morbius. Marvel Studios wants Blade and Morbius to fight before Morbius finally joins the Midnight Suns through the Blade franchise. Now, that makes sense. I mean, I could see that happening, but that might not be for a while. Dracula will be the main enemy in the Blade movie. I guess they could do that. That would make sense. I figured it'd be Morbius first, and then later on they team up. You know? Morbius and Kraven. It says here Morbius and Kraven the Hunter will have the same fate as Venom entering the MCU because Sony wants more revenue by cooperating with the MCU. I mean, we've heard about the Kraven movie and the Morbius movie, and it's a little bit confusing about what universe they take place in because it's almost implied that Morbius might be in Andrew Garfield's universe based on that first trailer, but things may have changed since then. Based on what happened in No Way Home, I am very curious to see where they go with that because there's tons of talk about Garfield coming back and having him sort of be the Sony Spider-Man while Tom Holland stays in the MCU. But the Kraven story is supposed to be a separate thing, part of the Sony Spider-Verse, excuse me. But having them go into the MCU, I guess, whenever you put a character in the MCU, it does kind of elevate them so Sony can make extra money off of it. But at the same time, this seems like something that isn't really too relevant to the MCU. As much as I would like to see that, it doesn't seem like it's that important. Kraven can have a real dark movie, if they decide to go that route. But, okay. Some of these seem authentic. Some of them seem like fan fiction and obvious stuff. There isn't really any huge revelations in this. No, like, deaths or anything like that. Nothing too major. So I think the guy who wrote this might be playing it safe with his fan fiction, if this is even fan fiction. I think some of it is definitely real, but I think the majority of it is probably just fan fiction. What do you think, though? Let me know down below, and I'll talk to you on the next video. Thanks for watching.